Hi everyone. Last week we had launched the Shish Weekly Math Challenge, and from the first challenge, we have already closed that contest. And we had 7 problems. A lot of you sent me solutions, but some of the questions had not been solved by quite a few of the students, or solved correctly, if I may add. So I'll discuss certain selected problems from the challenge. This is question number 7. This question says, let A, B, C be positive real numbers, be positive reals such that a square plus b square plus c square plus a plus b plus c whole square is less than equal to 4. We have to prove that ab plus 1 by a plus b whole square plus bc plus 1 by b plus c whole square plus ca plus 1 by c plus a whole square is greater than equal to 3. So this is actually USA Maths Olympiad 2011 problem. So let's quickly look at the solution for this. The way we do it is we understand this condition first. So this condition basically means a square plus b square plus c square, twice of that, plus 2ab plus bc plus ca, twice of that, is less than equal to 4, which implies that a square plus b square plus c square plus ab plus bc plus ca is less than equal to 2. So that is my condition. Now, if you look at the sum here, so you have a cyclic, and it looks like ab plus 1 by a plus b whole square. So let's try to think of this, because there is an AB and here I have an AB, right? So I want to utilize that somehow. So what I want to do is this cyclic sum, I will write it as 2AB plus 2. I will do twice of the sum. So let's call this sum as S, and I will think about what is twice of this sum. So that becomes 2AB plus 2 by A plus B whole square plus 2bc plus 2 by b plus c whole square and 2ca plus 2 by c plus a whole square. And now why have I done this twice of the sum? Because I can use this inequality here. So a square plus b square plus c square plus ab plus bc plus ca is less than equal to 2. Therefore, I can say that this this cyclic sum is greater than equal to basically summation cyclic. Since 2 is greater than this, I'm replacing 2 everywhere. So it is cyclic 2ab plus a square plus b square plus c square plus ab plus bc plus ca divided by a plus b whole square. So I have written cyclic. So actually there are 2 more terms which look like this. So this is the summation. Now, if you think about this particular thing, this is equal to summation cyclic a plus b whole square plus c plus a comma c plus b. C plus a multiplied by c plus b, and denominator has a plus b whole square. So that is simply equal to 1 plus summation cyclic. Actually, 1 will come from this factor and will come from the 2 other factors as well. So this becomes a 3 plus summation cyclic c plus a c plus b by a plus b whole square. So how did this 1 become a 3? Because 1 comes from this and 1 comes from the other 2 terms which are looking like this. So you get a 3 plus summation cyclic this one, right? So we have 2s is greater than equal to this thing, right? So I will write it on the next page. So I'm getting 2s is greater than equal to 3 plus summation cyclic c plus a c plus b by a plus b whole square, right? And I'm going to focus on this summation now. By AMGM, this summation cyclic c plus a c plus b by a plus b whole square will be greater than equal to 3 times cube root of the GM. GM will be C plus A, C plus B by A plus B whole square, and similar terms, right? The second term would become B plus C whole square and B plus C whole square. So on top we'll get A plus C and A plus B. And the third term will become C plus A whole square. So on top you'll get A plus B and B plus C. So you notice that B plus C, everything gets cancelled out here. So eventually you get greater than equal to 3. So 2s comes out to be greater than equal to 3 plus 3, and therefore s is greater than equal to 3. That is what we had to prove. So that is the proof for the question 7. The other questions that I want to discuss are, excuse me, the other question is question 1. Question 1 is a very interesting problem. I will give you references from where you can look at this in more detail. Pi by 3m and divided by m plus 1, m plus 2. So I received many attempts as the solution for this problem. One of the students, I think Ruchit Somani, I think did a very nice solution where he did not use complex numbers here. So I will give you a bit of background on this. This is actually a general case of the summation this. Px is equal to summation m is equal to 1 to infinity minus 1 to the power m cos of mx by m plus 1 m plus 2. So this, in this p of x, if I put p of pi by 3, that is the question. That is the question that is being asked. P of pi by 3 is being asked, right? And actually this problem was posed to Ramanujan, and he came up with a solution that I'm going to show. And this is Ramanujan's solution. So that is quite interesting. And the way he did this, and you can find reference to this book to this solution in the book called, there is a book by Paul Nahin, which is about imaginary numbers. So I will get the book's name, I think. Paul Nahin. It's about Dr. Euler's fabulous formula. Dr. Euler's fabulous formula. So that whole book is describing this particular equation, which is called one of the most beautiful equations in maths. So this book has this in chapter number 1 or chapter 2. There's a fairly interesting proof by Ramanujan. So we're going to look at this. So what he did was, first he defined an identical function for, or the corresponding function in terms of sign. And that function became minus 1 power m sine of mx by m plus 1, m plus 2. And then he did the most obvious thing here. Px plus iqx will become, he's using complex numbers, px plus iqx becomes summation m goes from 1 to infinity minus 1 power m, and this is cos mx plus I sine mx. So he will write that as e power I mx by m plus 1, m plus 2. And z is equal to e power ix. So this becomes z power m. So z power m is equal to e power I mx. So basically the summation is px plus iqx is summation of m goes from 1 to infinity minus 1 power m z power m by m plus 1, m plus 2. That is the solution. That is a part of the solution. So now what we know is this particular theorem from Taylor series. We know ln 1 plus z will be equal to z minus z square by 2 plus z cube by 3 minus z4 by 4 and so on. So this is Taylor's theorem from calculus, Taylor's series, and we have this. So now if you notice, this summation can be split using telescopic series method into these terms: m minus 2, m plus 2 minus m plus 1 by m plus 1, m plus 2, and minus 1 to the power m, z power m. This is the summation. and goes from 1 to infinity m. So I can split it into two parts. So the summation breaks down into two different summations. This is 1 to infinity minus z power m 1 by m plus 1 minus summation 1 to infinity minus z power m 1 by m plus 2. So this is the actual series that I want to sum. Now we'll focus on each individual part, right? So if you think about it, summation 1 to infinity minus z power m 1 by m plus 1, write down the first few terms of this series. It looks like this: minus z by 2 plus z square by 3 minus z cube by 4 plus z4 by 5 and so on. So there is a lot of similarity between ln1 plus z series and this series. So what can we do? If we multiply this by z, you get minus z power m by 1 by m plus 1 will become minus z square by 2 plus z cube by 3 minus z4 by 4 plus z5 by 5 and so on. And now you can see that these terms are completely matching. So definitely the RHS here is ln1 plus z minus z. So z into the required series is equal to ln1 plus z minus z. Therefore, this first series is basically ln1 plus z by z minus 1. So that is my summation of this first series using Taylor's theorem. Taylor's theorem from here, right? Now look at the second series as well. Now the same exact process will follow. We'll write down the second summation minus z power m by 1 plus 2. And this turns out to look like this: minus z cube by 3 plus z4 by 4 minus z5 by 5 plus z6 by 6 and so on. And again, what we notice is that ln1 plus z, because ln1 plus z was equal to z minus z square by 2 plus z cube by 3 minus z4 by 4 and so on. Actually, this was z square into this, right? I've already done one step. I've skipped a step here. So if you write the summation of this series, it will turn out to look like this. When you put 1, you get minus z by 3. When you put 2, you get z square by 4 and so on. So if I multiply that by z square, I get minus z cube by 3 and z4 by 4, right? And z5 by 5 and so on. And now you look at ln1 plus z as z minus z square by 2 plus z cube by 3 minus z4 by 4. Then you can see easily that ln1 plus z minus z plus z square by 2 and multiplied by minus is equal to minus of minus z plus z square by 2. Yeah, correct. Is equal to minus z cube by 3 plus z4 by 4 and so on, which is equal to z square into the required second series. So all I have to do to find the second series is divide this by 1 by z square. So that turns out to become ln 1 plus z by z square minus plus 1 by z and minus 1 by 2. That is the second series. Now, if you remember, the first summation had split into two different summations, and we had to take the difference of the two summations. And I had already written the first summation as ln1 plus z, ln1 plus z by z minus 1. So that was the first bracket. That is the first summation. This is the second summation. I have to do the subtraction. So the required px plus iqx, px plus iqx becomes equal to, finally, ln 1 plus z 1 by z plus 1 by z square minus 1 by z minus half. So now our job is to replace back the z. Z is equal to e power ix. So therefore 1 by z will be e power minus ix and 1 by z square will be e power minus 2ix, right? So I'll replace everything here. So I'll get ln 1 plus e power ix, and I'll get e power minus ix plus e power minus 2ix and minus e power minus ix minus half. We'll get these terms, and ln 1 plus e power ix can be simplified very easily. It becomes e power ix by 2 common. It is e power ix by 2 plus e power minus ix by 2 and whole ln. So that turns out to become ln e power ix by 2. So ix by 2 plus ln, what is this? This is 2 cos x by 2. So 2 cos x by 2. Using the identity, cos x by 2 plus I sin x by 2 is equal to e power ix by 2, using that. So I get this for this part minus, I get from here, correct. Okay, this part, only this part I have simplified right now. I still have to multiply e power minus ix plus e power minus 2ix. I still have to do that. So that still is there. So that becomes cos x plus cos 2x minus I sin x minus I sin 2x, and I have minus cos x minus half plus I sin x outside, right? There is a cos x minus I sin x comes from here. So minus cos x plus I sin x and minus half. So this is the overall thing. Now notice that our particular function was the cos function. We had defined px as the cos series and qx was the corresponding sine series. So px is the real part of that complex number, this complex number. Px is the real part of that. So I have to take the real part of this complex number if I want to say it is equal to px. So what is the real part of this complex number? I can just simply multiply this cos x plus cos 2x into this part that is completely real. Then I have to multiply this part with the ix by 2, because minus I and I will become minus I square, which is plus 1, and remaining part is this. So I'll write the real part of this complex number here. So real part of px plus iqx is equal to, so I'll just write the answer, you can check it yourself, the steps: ln 2 cos x by 2 cos x plus cos 2x plus x by 2 sin x plus sin 2x minus cos x minus half. So that was the real part of this, which is equal to px. So the px summation comes out to be this. Now px summation was actually, if I write it down, it was summation m is equal to 1 to infinity minus 1 to the power m cos mx by m plus 1 m plus 2. And that means that I can put the value of x is equal to pi by 3 here. When I do x is equal to pi by 3, I will get the required series that was asked in the question. So p of pi by 3 will become ln 2 cos pi by 6. So cos pi by 6 is root 3 by 2. And this becomes cos pi by 3 is half and cos 2 pi by 3 is minus half. So this term anyway vanishes. And this becomes pi by 3 by 2. So pi by 6 sine pi by 3. Sine pi by 3 is root 3 by 2. And sine 2 pi by 3 is again root 3 by 2 minus cos pi by 3 is half, and this becomes half. So this becomes pi by 6 into root 3 minus 1, or pi by 2 root 3 minus 1. So that was the answer to this question. You should go over the preceding steps. It uses complex numbers and it uses Taylor series, ln1 plus z series, right? After that, it's about manipulation and converting it into the version of this question that will give you the real part. So that was that. Now the next question that I think all of you got wrong, I think I hardly saw a solution where this was correct, is the question number 3, which is find the number of solutions. Find the number of solutions of the equation x1 plus x2 plus x3 plus x3 plus x4 is equal to 20, given the conditions 1 is less than equal to x1 is less than equal to 5, 0 is less than equal to x2 is less than equal to 7, 4 is less than equal to x3 is less than equal to 8, and 2 is less than equal to x4 is less than equal to 6. So I don't know how everyone was getting 72 as the answer. That is not correct. So I will show you the solution. This involves the principle of inclusion and exclusion. So first thing that I will do is, I know that if it is greater than some value, that inequality is not a problem for me. If some variables are greater than some number, that is not a problem. So I'll take a new set of variables. I'll convert it to y1, y2, y3, and y4 under the conditions that y1 is equal to x1 minus 1, y2 is equal to x2, y3 is equal to x3 minus 4, and y4 is equal to x4 minus 2. So if you do that, you have basically already assigned 1, 0, 4, and 2 to the variables x1, x2, x3, x4. So that means the new equation will become is equal to 13. So this is my transformed equation. And I have to find solutions for this equation given the conditions y1 is less than equal to 4, because x1 was less than equal to 5. So y1 is x1 minus 1, right? So y1 is less than equal to 4. That's correct, right? Correct. So y1 plus 1 is x1. Yeah, makes sense. And also y2 is less than equal to 7. Similarly, y3 is less than equal to 4. And y4 is less than equal to 4. These are the conditions that I have, right? Under these conditions, I have to find the solutions of this equation, the number of solutions of this equation. Okay, so think about it. You have to get solutions of equations which are lower than a particular value. So why not think about in a complementary way? Think about n1 as 5, n2 as 8, n3 as 5, and n4 as 5, and think about situations where solutions where y1 is greater than equal to n1, right? And y2 is greater than equal to n2. We have to exclude all possible solutions from this, right? All possible solutions which do this, you have to exclude. So our base case is total number of solutions of this equation. Total number of solutions of this equation is simply 13 plus 3c3. That is the total number of possible solutions to this equation, from where I have to exclude all possible cases where any of the variables exceed these situations. Any of the variables exceed 4, 7, 4, 4, right? So it could be 5, 2 of them could be exceeding, or 3 of them could be exceeding, or just one of them are exceeding, right? So this is a typical inclusion exclusion problem. So now what we'll do in the next page is do the inclusion exclusion. Finally, eventually I have to subtract it from 16C3. I will count this by pi, principle of inclusion and exclusion, and then I'll subtract it from the total number of solutions. So that is how you solve this. So how do I count it? So let's think of number of ways in which you could have one of the variables exceeding their restrictions, right? So you have basic equation is this: y4 is equal to 13 and n1 is equal to 5. These are the values, lowest values when you exceed or break the condition of the problem. N3 is 5, n4 is equal to 5. So let's construct a property. Let's denote pi as the property that of a non-negative solution, of a non-negative integer solution, non-negative integer solution called a1, a2, a3, a4, satisfying AI is greater than equal to Ni. So Pi is the property such that a particular solution of the equation has the condition that AI is greater than Ni. If it is greater than Ni, it is one of the problematic cases that we have to exclude, right? So what I want to count is number of ways in which P1 can happen, right? P1 can happen. So P1 could happen in what ways? When N1 is greater than equal to 5, right? And N1 is greater than equal to 5 could happen when you already assign 5 to it. So the equation becomes y2 plus y3 plus y4 plus y1 is equal to 8, right? We already assigned 5 to this, right? So I get 8 plus 3c3 solutions in that case, right? I hope everyone is following this. If y1 is exceeding 5, right, greater than equal to 5, I will put 5 in y1. So the whole equation becomes y1 plus y2 plus y3 plus y4 is equal to 8. And then I will count the total number of solutions. This also includes the cases where some other variable could also be wrong, right? This doesn't account for the case where y2 is less than 8 or y3 is less than 5 or y4 is less than 5. This includes solutions which have y2, y3, y4 or a combination of them also violating the conditions. So that is something that we have to keep in mind. This is an overcounting. This is just ensuring that y1 is definitely breaking the condition, but it is not worrying about all the other cases. So this is WP1, and that will be 8 plus 3C3, so 11C3. WP2 will be when second variable violates the condition, and I don't care about what happens to 1 and 3 and 4, right? So in that case, I have to get greater than 8. So it will be 13 minus 8 plus 3. 13 minus 8 plus 3C3. So that will be 8C3. WP3 will be when third variable breaks the condition. So that will again be 11C3, and WP4 will again be 11C3. So these are cases where at least one variable is wrong, right? So I will add up all of these cases, but there's definitely W of 1. So one variable is wrong, you are getting WP1, either one variable P1 or P2 or P3 or P4. P4. So that counts as 11C3 plus 11C3 plus 11C3 plus 8C3. So 3 times 11C3 plus 8C3. That is when one variable exceeds. Now, what about if two variables exceed? Two variables could also exceed, right? P1 and P2 both could be wrong, right? So if it is, then the cases that come out are P1, P2 plus P1, P3 plus P1, P4 P1, P4 plus P2, P3 plus P2, P4 and P3, P4. Here, two variables are violating the conditions, right? So there are 6 possible cases in which two variables are violating the conditions. Now, if two variables are violating, suppose P1 and P2 are greater than 5 or more. So 5 plus 8, 13 is already covered here, right? So the number of cases that you will get is just simply 13 minus 5 minus 8 plus 3C3. In P1 and P3 case, you will get first and third, right? So 13 minus 5 plus 3C3. 13 minus 5 minus 5 plus 3C3. And you are not worrying about the other variables here. So again, P1, P4 will also be the same here. So this will be 10, 6C3. So this will also be 6C3. And P2, P3. P2, P3 will again be 13 minus 5 minus 8 plus 3C3. So 3C3, this is actually 13 and 13 get cancelled. 3C3 plus 6C3 plus 6C3 plus 3C3. Then P2, P4 is also 2 and 4, so also 3C3. And P3, P4. P3, P4 is again 6C3. So the total number of cases for W2 when two variables are breaking the condition, and I don't care about the rest, is coming out to be 3C3, how many times? 3 times, and 6C3, I think 3 times again, right? Correct. 3C3 3 times, so that is 3 plus 3 times 6C3. That is when two variables are wrong. Three variables are wrong, you don't get any cases, because three variables being wrong will already exceed this. You don't get any non-negative integer solution if you already put 5, 8 and 5 there, right? It will be covering to 18. So W3 will be 0 and W4 will obviously be again 0. Basically all 4 cannot be wrong, all 3 cannot be wrong. Only 1 and 2 combinations can be wrong. Now by inclusion and exclusion, the number of wrong possible solutions, number of wrong solutions will be W1 minus W2. Because in W1, you could also have had the case where you were having 2 wrong, but it was already counted in 1, right? Because 2 variables could have been wrong in 1, because we were not caring about other variables once one of them was wrong. So this becomes W1 minus W2 becomes simply 3 times 11C3 plus 8C3 minus 3 times 6C3 minus 3, right? And now total number of right solutions, total number of solutions for you becomes the base case, which was 16C3, if you remember. That was the total number of solutions without any restrictions, minus the number of wrong solutions. So 16C3 minus 3 times 11C3 minus 8C3 plus 3 times 6C3 my plus 3, right? That will come out to be the answer. So let's do a quick calculation. This becomes 16 factorial by 13 factorial 3 factorial minus 3 times 11 factorial by 8 factorial 3 factorial minus 8 factorial by 3 factorial 5 factorial plus 3 times 6 factorial by 3 factorial 3 factorial plus 3. So this becomes 16 into 15 into 14 by 6 minus 3 into 11 into 10 into 9 by 6 minus this is 8 into 7 into 6 by 6 plus 3 into 6 into 5 into 4 by 6 plus 3. So this can be evaluated. 3 2s are 5 and this becomes 7. So 80 into 7, 560 minus this becomes 2 and this becomes 5. 55 into 9, 55 into 9 becomes 550, 505 minus 56 plus this becomes 15 into 4, 60 plus 3, right? That is what I'm getting. So 40, this becomes 561, so minus 1 plus 60 plus 3. So it is going 62, right? If I have not made any careless mistakes here. So 15 into 4, 60 plus 3, 63 minus 56 and there is 55. So 62. I think I'm getting 62. So total number of correct solutions will be 62. I think I saw some solutions where you guys got some 72 or something. Maybe many people were close, but I think this is the correct solution, unless I made some careless mistakes. So that was this question. Then we had question number 2, which was very straightforward, Newton's interpolation formula. I'll not be discussing that. The geometry questions many of you got, so I don't think I need to discuss those as well. Yeah, I think that's about it for now, and we will discuss next week the solutions for challenge 2. So challenge 2 is already live and I've shared that, and we can discuss those solutions next week. That's all for now.